All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I got a big show for you guys today. Of course, this is I'm recording this on June 26th, 2026, but this will be coming out on July 4th, which is, I believe, double check here. That is on a Saturday, I believe. Double check here on my phone calendar just to be sure. Yeah, Saturdays. This will be for Saturday, July 4th. So happy July 4th to those of you who are in the United States. Of course, I am here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, of course, we'll be celebrating July 4th. I'll be out of town, so that's where we're doing this show now, not live. So, hopefully, you guys are having a great day celebrating America's 250th birthday. How about that? 250 years. Yeah, I got a big show for you guys today. Got some underrated games I want to look into. Got a question about, or just not a question, but I guess a topic about college football in 10 years from now in 2036. And then we'll wrap up with Auburn team record projection. So we'll wrap up the show with that. Again, if you are new here, welcome to the show. Of course, this is where we talk about college football all year round here on this show. And again, this is not usually our typical setup here. We usually do the show live on YouTube. Spotify, this won't impact you guys that much, but for on YouTube, yes, this is a live stream, and or this is not a live stream. This is a pre-recorded show. So, and also because we're using StreamYard and not Restream, I'm not able to do my typical graphics and stuff. So, apologies for that. For not having graphics prepared, but I think a classic throwback to the old days of how we used to do it. I think it's fun. I could have used Restream, but I think the pre-recorded live streams cost money, whereas on StreamYard I don't have to pay anything. So, yeah, we'll have to, I guess, have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is fine. Most of you guys probably listen to this anyway instead of actually like watching the actual show. But as you're here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to do that. It's very important. Also, be sure to follow us on the socials. On X and on Instagram, be sure to follow us on the podcast feed. And again, be sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure to do that. All right, let's jump right in here. First topic here, underrated games in college football. We've talked about the big games, I think, so far, but we haven't talked about the underrated games. Okay, like which games are people sort of overlooking a little bit. And the first game here I want to talk about is Penn State out of Washington. This is late in the year, yes. It's not necessarily like outside of well, it is outside of the big two games for Penn State this year, Michigan and USC. But this one's also pretty sneaky as well. Washington is going to be a very competent team. If Jamal Williams come back, Jeff Fish, it's at home, by the way, so the time travel thing has to play in a factor here, going from the East Coast all the way to the Pacific time zone. Not easy for college students. I know a lot of folks will say, "Oh, well, they're going to be in the NFL probably, so just deal with it and shut the fuck up." Well, this isn't the NFL, asshole. This is college football. So, yeah, so that is a factor. Time is really a factor here in terms of your body clock, right? Not to mention, you're going to a very hostile environment, a team that, again, should be fairly good in Washington. And we just did our toughest stadiums rankings a few days ago on the show last week, or this week when I'm recording this. We had a Husky Stadium in the top 10. So I feel pretty confident that this will be a very entertaining game and it should be a fun game to watch. And a lot of folks aren't talking about it, which is weird. So Penn State out of Washington, that is in November. Now, a little bit early in the year, going a little bit backwards a little bit here. Ohio State at Iowa. Ohio State at Iowa. Now, a lot of folks, again, probably see this and go, okay, it's at home. All right, it's Ohio State. It should handle Iowa, right? But here's the thing. As much as I even talked about this a few days ago, actually, I think when we did, week I'm recording this, we did the Ohio State team record projection. I mentioned this game and how this is going to be very interesting to watch because Ohio State, I still think will be a very, very good team, as we showed in our segment back on one of our previous shows. But I mentioned this game because this will be an interesting litmus test. Not so, along with the Texas game, but at least in conference, can Ohio State stop the run? Can their new defensive line stop Iowa's run game? Because knowing Iowa, they're going to want to run the football a lot. That's just who they are. That's just how they operate. So to say, agree with it, don't really like it, but you'll have to always like things that you see. And I think Iowa proves that it's going to be a challenge there to see how much their defensive line, Ohio State, especially from week 3 when they play Texas for week 2 to where they are playing Iowa, I believe like week 5 or week 4, I believe. And it's also on the road. And I mentioned, we mentioned previously that going to Iowa at noon, especially for a big noon kickoff, which I'm assuming this will probably be, no real fear there. I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, it is still a tough place to play, Kinnick Stadium, but playing Iowa on that late afternoon, or maybe this game's the 7:30 kickoff in NBC with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge, I wouldn't feel so comfortable about that. I think Ohio State will probably win the game, but would Ohio State win the game by 10 points? Probably not. 7 points or less? Probably. So that one, definitely underrated. Another one in the ACC, no one's really talking about, which is kind of strange. Now, a lot of folks have brought up SMU and Louisville. That'll be on here, but that'll be cheating because everyone else is already choosing that game. At least have adopted that game as the underrated game, or as a underrated game. But I'm going to include Clemson hosting Miami. Just picture this with me, if you will. What if Clemson? So they play LSU in week 1 on the road. It's gonna be tough. No one says it's gonna be easy. It's definitely gonna be tough. But what if Clemson wins that game? What if Clemson goes into the other Death Valley and gets revenge after last year and just beats LSU and spoils Lane Kiffin's first game as the LSU head coach at home? Wouldn't that be something? So that's certainly possible. Not likely, but it's definitely possible. They win that, and I believe they play like Cal on the road, and they host UNC. So how about that? Bill Belichick gets to experience the Clemson running down the hill for the first time ever. What if they're 3-0 or 4-0 heading to that Miami game? And Miami's also undefeated too, probably by that point. I would imagine that would be a very enticing game and could have massive ramifications on the conference. I mean, just think about it. Seeing Clemson back on the national spotlight, seeing Miami going to Clemson. The last time they went to Clemson, they got short, I believe, but that was in 2020. So that'll be an interesting game to watch if all the ingredients come together. Okay, it's not a guarantee that will happen, but that's a game that I am sort of secretly hoping that Clemson does end up, entering that game. Both teams are undefeated. Another game here. We'll talk about one of these two teams here in a moment. Auburn at Tennessee in the SEC. Now, no one's talking about this game because of the expectations for both of these teams are, a little bit lower than most other teams in the conference. You have Auburn, new coach, and a new roster mostly. We'll touch on them later in the team record projections segment. But you also have Tennessee. We'll talk about them as well. I think we'll talk about them on the episode before this on Tuesday, and this is coming on Saturday. So, look, Tennessee, Auburn, they both run the same offense, which is like you're basically playing like the copy of each other. They both are going to be having new starting quarterbacks. Now, one of them is more experienced than the other, and Byron Brown and whoever is going to start for Tennessee. But then you have the fact that it's Auburn going to Tennessee for the first time in over 10 years. It's a game that's not really played that much. And it's just a very, very interesting spot for both of these teams. At this point for Auburn, by the way, on their schedule, they would have already played Florida. So they could easily be undefeated here, or they could have a loss. And then for Tennessee, more than likely, as I look at their schedule here, they should also be potentially one loss. Because remember, they do get Texas before they play Auburn at home. And that's a noon kickoff, by the way. So both of these teams are going to be hitting a very interesting part of their schedule, because especially for Auburn, you have Tennessee. Before that, you play Vanderbilt. So generally, you expect them to win that game without Diego Pavia, I would assume. And it's also at home, so that helps. Then you get Tennessee. We're talking about that game right now. Then you have to go to Georgia. Then you get LSU. Then you get Ole Miss. There's no rest there. There's no bye weeks. There's no, that is 4 straight games of hell, pretty much. And 3 of those 4 games are on the road. So that is very, very dire situations there for Auburn. Now for Tennessee, go back and look at their schedule as I pull it up. It's a lot more, it's not as daunting. They get Arkansas after Auburn. Yes, they get Bama, but it's at home. Then you go South Carolina, Kentucky. That's a good thing. You want that. A&M on the road, LSU, and then on the road at Vanderbilt. Not the easiest stretch, but not totally bumpy. So this is sort of an inflection point for really both teams, because if both these teams come to this game with one loss, or even the best case scenario, they're both undefeated and they're all of a sudden top 15 teams, then the calculus starts to change for both. Because then you see Auburn's schedule and you see Tennessee's schedule. Auburn, yeah, it's the more daunting, but for Tennessee, you can kind of weave your way into it. So that one, very underrated. Now, I could have easily chosen the Auburn Florida game early in the year, but again, a lot of our folks have already talked about that game, so we'll do Auburn Tennessee in the SEC. And then going forward here, it's sort of a game that's kind of off the radar, really off the radar. What about Arizona at BYU? Brigham Young in Arizona. So Arizona, of course, their head coach, Brett Brennan, been there for a little bit. Sort of worried about him, not for his personal safety or anything like that. I think he should be fine. I think I would imagine, but just that his job security. I'm just really am worried about how much runway does he really have? Because the first year he got there, not so good. They were horrible. Even though they had a lot of expectations coming off of a 10-win season with Jed Fish. Just mentioned him earlier. Then last year they improved a little bit. They did go to a bowl game, I'm pretty sure, and then they have this year. And of course, the Big 12, being America's college football conference, you never really know. It's kind of a smorgasbord of possibilities, and especially with uncertain futures with Texas Tech and where they're going to go. They'll still be a good team, but you're losing what should have been your starting quarterback. This game for really both teams, Arizona and BYU, Brigham Young, is a big test. Now Brigham Young does have, I think they play Notre Dame later in the schedule. It's in October, so it's not in September, I think. So this will be the first time most of you will probably be seeing both of these teams playing on national TV. Like, for example, Arizona plays a regional or a in-state SES team. And then they also have a G5 Northern Illinois. By the way, welcome to the Mountain West, because that makes total sense now. And then they have BYU sandwiched in between, or at least a road trip there, and it is a conference game, early conference game. So pretty consequential game here for the Big 12, because if Arizona goes on the road and beats Brigham Young, we're going to have a very interesting case here, because again, BYU, they have Notre Dame in October. That's October 17th. Now they have a long ways to go, obviously, and they still have a lot more games to play. And they also, I'm just looking at their schedule, they have to go to Colorado State. That's cool. Luckily, they're both altitude teams, so it's not a big deal. But then they go to Texas Christian. They go to Iowa, or they host Iowa State. So, it's a very, very interesting spot there. It's it's an early conference game. Both teams are still fairly confident. They should be both 1-0. I hope they beat both their FCS teams. I'd be really bad if they don't. So the calculus says and the math says this should be a really competitive game. I don't think FanDuel has the line for this game yet in terms of the betting props. But I'd imagine both of these teams are going to be objective for this game. And it's at home for Brigham Young, for Brigham Young, so that's good. If it was a road game, then that's a little bit different. But then finally, I don't think there's another game on here. Is there? That's my notes. No, there's not. So again, underrated games, in my opinion. You have Penn State at Washington, Ohio State at Iowa, Clemson versus Miami, hosting Miami, Auburn at Tennessee, and then Arizona going to Brigham Young. Early in the year, by the way. Again, that's an early year game for Brigham Young, or for BYU. Look at some water real quick. Again, earlier we did the extra pod. So if everything looks the same here, that's why you still hear thunder in the background. The storm's now passed away a little bit, so it's offshore into the Atlantic Ocean. So I think we should be good in that department a little bit. But I'm going to get some water real quick. Make sure to hydrate. The voice still here somehow after doing now getting close to an hour and 30 minutes total of showtime. I don't think the show would go that long here. I'm not expecting it. I don't think we're going to be going for an hour like we did on the extra pod. I just kind of got carried away there. But anyway, get some water real quick, and we move on to our second segment, which is fairly interesting. Could have definitely been a extra pod question, but we chose to actually just combine it into a segment that we were going to do anyway. Or at least it sounds like a extra pod question, but it's not. So. For those listening on Spotify, there nothing happened to your audio there on Spotify. Just did some a water break. How long are we going for here? About 14 minutes. All right, good clip. College football in 10 years. What's college football going to look like in 2036? Now we don't know what's going to look like in 2027 or 2029, but let's be sadistic. Let's go all the way to a decade. So 2036, the year of our Lord, 2036. Got a couple of things here I just wanted to discuss, sort of some things that I wondered about. You guys can write it in the comments section below if you want to here on YouTube. The first one I have here is what does conference realignment look like? in 2036. Now we know that around 2030, that the ACC's probably going to go away. Okay, like it's probably going to be dead. So that we know for sure will not exist. Now the next question will be, okay, so where's Florida State at? Where's Clemson at? Where's Miami at? Where's Syracuse at? Where's Wake Forest at? Okay, where's UNC? Where's NC State? Where's Stanford and Cal? Did they go back to the Pac-12 and rejoin their friends over there, or lack thereof? I don't know. That's a good that part of it's more like the fascinating part of this that we could discuss down the road. But I would imagine that is the next domino to fall, because again, if those of you're not aware, the ACC contract for the TV stuff of ESPN and ABC, that's going away here pretty soon, and you're going to start seeing, as we get closer to 2030, more and more announcements of teams saying, "Hey guys, we're on the way out. See ya." And that's the same thing that happened to the Pac-12, and it's happened to the Big 12 with the cannibalization of those conferences. So I do expect that is going to happen with the ACC. Just a matter of time. It's not that I want to go away. I don't. I really hope they find a way to keep it around. I hope they find a way to keep it around. But the sustainability of the conference, and the fact that it's a conference that's not really serious. Let's be real. Outside of Miami, what team in the ACC really, besides Miami, can win the national title? Maybe not Clemson, potentially. Louisville, probably not. Cal and Stanford, no. Florida State, no. Virginia Tech, they could have a good year with James Franklin, but that's not a guarantee. Okay, so I think you're kind of getting the vibe here that unless this is circa Pac-12 2023, where all the teams are all of a sudden good. Of course, in the last year the conference exists, I just don't think this is sustainable. Okay, the ACC is in worse shape than Pac-12 was. At least the Pac-12 was, in the last few years, they were kind of, getting better, and they actually started to prove themselves. The ACC is just they don't there's no momentum at all. It's just it feels like the end is near, and it's unfortunate. It's a conference that I want to be good and I want to stick around, but as you sort of continue going down the road here, within the next 4 or 5, not even 4 years, the next couple of years, I think we're going to see a lot more teams start to leave. So that's the big one here, is what does conference realignment live? And then I guess the next question again is, where's everyone at? Where's Florida State at? Did they go join the ACC or the SEC, who took the playoff spot from them in 2023? Did he go to the Big Ten? Those again, Cal, Stanford, did they go join the new Pac-12 and join up with Washington State and Oregon State, I guess? So did they come back to the Pac-12? Of those, the rest of the ACC members, like Syracuse, Boston College, and Pitt, did they go to the G5? Did they just get forgotten about? Not a guarantee, but who knows? Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Another huge question: is the Big Ten still dominating the sport? Are they still winning national titles, or has the SEC come back and they've retaken their throne? Still possibly. Any of these are possible here. Well, at least with this scenario. I think both of these conferences in general will be still dominating. But in terms of dominating, I'm sure this is what I'm referring to, or at least what I'm actually referring to, is championships, which is still very possible. And the Big Ten could still definitely do that. But then again, question is what's happened to the AC to the SEC. Are they still obviously they're going to make the playoff, but are those teams still getting to the national championship? I don't know. That's a fair point to. This is a fair point to make here. Next one. Speaking of Big Ten, is Coach Sig still going on at Indiana? Is he still there? Is Indiana still winning national titles? Have they turned into a dynasty? Unlikely. I don't think so. But look, Coach Sig is a little bit older, so who knows? Maybe in 10 years he says, "Screw it, I'm retiring. I've won my national title. I've had my acolyte, or my accolades of." I don't know what I just said there. I've already gotten my rewards. I've already paid my dues. I've won my national title. I've rode off into the sunset. I guess technically I'm not saying he's dying or anything. But is he still in Indiana? Unlikely. I don't think so. I don't think he's going to do what Bobby Bowden did and coach until he's close to being into a retirement home or anything like that. But that's a very fair point, though, to wonder, is he still there? And then if he's not there, who's in Indiana? Does someone else on the staff there take over? Do they hire someone else? Do they what happens in Indiana? And also, Like, what has Indiana done? Again, like, are they still like just time back to the previous question? Has the Big Ten have they continued to dominate? Is Indiana a part of that? Is Ohio State a part of that? Is Michigan a part of that? Is Penn State a part of that? Is Oregon a part of that? Is USC a part of it? Probably not, but you never know. So yeah, that one's a very interesting one. There's next one too. Um, One that I don't think a lot of folks are going to be talking about per se, but this is our last one. Is what about Dabo and Kirby? Well, them are they still at their prospective schools or have they retired? Again, as I mentioned on the extra pod that we recorded today, being on June 26th, I mentioned about the potential of certain coaches, like people like coaches like Dabo Sweeney or Kirby Smart or Ryan Day, just saying, "Hey, because of the structure of the sport and because we've already won national titles, I'm just choosing these guys at random." We these guys could hypothetically just say, really good TV for a couple years, maybe we come back, or they just retire permanently. Where are they at? I mean, Dabo has won multiple national titles, and maybe he's won more at this point. Maybe he's gone Clemson back, or maybe Clemson's on the downside, and maybe he's resigned or retired by now. We don't know. Same with Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's not getting any younger. Yeah, sure, he's still relatively young, but he's not going to be around much longer in terms of coaching. I'm assuming he won't be coaching until he's 80, like Bobby Bowden was. I'm assuming he will want to leave Georgia in a good spot to where they're not like, sort of like where Florida State was after Bowden left and resigned, where, they were kind of a bit of a mess even when he was still there. So that's an interesting question there. Like, where's Georgia at? All right. And I know that's a big part here. So, yeah, I mean, where's Dabo and Kirby? Are they still at their schools? Are they still coaching at Clemson and Georgia, respectively? Or, excuse me, have they moved on to different ventures? So that one's definitely a very, very pivotal and big question here, especially to the health of the sport. Is there one I could have easily added on here? Where's the playoff, too? Like, is it still a 12-team playoff? Got a piece of dust in my nose here. Has the playoff gone to 24 teams? Has there been even more teams coming into the FBS level? Has there been a split from the G5 and the FBS? So that's all the thing. That's tons of questions here we could ask here. I mean, another one we could ask is, kind of sort of moving beyond football, but is there a college football commissioner and for the sport? Or has it been the SEC and the Big Ten and the other two? Well, I guess now, technically it would be still two because the Pac-12 would have, I guess in our potential timeline here, they would have absorbed the remaining of the ACC schools, mainly the West Coast. So, like, is it still like the four policemen model? Is it the government taking in charge? Is it a commissioner? What about the college football video game? Is it still around? Is it canceled again? Is it, what's happened to it? So, yeah, all of these questions here, we can go on and on and on about asking you these questions about where the sport is in 10 years from now. Again, that's a long time. Even the next like 5 years, we don't know. Even next year, we don't know heck, you don't know what the freaking playoffs is going to look like. I mean, I hope it won't be expanding beyond 12 teams. I'd much rather it go down, but I know we can't go back down. We can only go up. But I mean, even next year, we still don't know what the season looks like next year, which is kind of sad to think about. But anyway, yeah, college football in the future, like, what is it going to look like in the next 10 years, particularly? I'm going to take more water real quick, and we'll move right along to the team record projection. Auburn there on deck for the first time this year. By the way, if you guys are listening to me here on YouTube, again, this will be pre-recorded, and this will be set to premiere at the appropriate time on July 4th. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning, happy July 4th. Happy birthday, America, United States of America, 250 years young. But yeah, as we're doing this, again, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the streams when we do those, like the videos and the pre-recorded shows, and be sure to follow us on Spotify as we can get, by the way, our extra pod, which at the point as I'm recording this here on June 26th, that one is available, so you can go watch it, or you can go to the YouTube channel and find the individual clips that are on there. I believe we are in the process of doing those right now. There's 2 of them up that we recorded during the our extra pod section a little bit ago as I'm recording this. Again, this is not on July 4th. Clearly, this is the same day we did the extra pod. So, yeah, which is why the voice sounds a little bit hoarse here, because obviously I've been recording for well over a few hours. But I do it for you guys, and I like doing it because it's fun. But yeah, just be sure to subscribe to the channel, podcast feed, follow us on the socials. And that is all we ask. This show's free. Excuse me, I have the burp there. This show's not behind the paywall. This show is not like on the Patreon page. I wouldn't do that for you guys. This show is completely free of charge. That's all we ask, and hopefully it'll be that way, and it will continue to be that way for the foreseeable future. Moving right along here, final segment here. Again, this might be a bit of a shorter show because my voice is starting to go out, and that's part of it, and also it is 4th of July, so I'm sure most of you want to celebrate with your friends and family, and also I will be. But we'll make it short for you guys, and sort of I guess like a dirty 30 show, if you will, sort of under 30 minutes or around 30 minutes. Anyway, team record projection for Auburn, the 2026. They're up. Auburn Tigers are up. Alex Glesh, first year being with the Tigers, coming over from South Florida. A lot of changes, as we've been talking about ad nauseum. Let me fix my chair here. So again, they fire Hugh Freeze, they bring in Alex Glesh, they bring in sort of like Penn State, bring in just implementing and shooting in. I don't know if it's even a word. Rebooting the team, bring in a new roster. You have a new head coach, and as I've said before, you mentioned this on the extra pod when we recorded it earlier, because there's a question in the extra pod that it brought up LSU, but it tied in Auburn because we used a quote from Bud Elliott, and what Bud Elliott said on his LSU summer school episode is that I'm not going to go through the whole quote again, but basically to summarize it, it's like he thinks Auburn will be struggling to make a bowl game. And unfortunately, to kind of spoil the fun here, I kind of agree with that. I know a lot of you folks in Auburn, Alabama, or Alexander City, or Montgomery, Alabama, or across the Southeast are going, "What the hell? Are you crazy?" Like same thing people were saying to Bud after he made that comment. Well, I kind of agree with them. And then it's not because I'm doing it because I want to copy him or anything like that. It's just I kind of agree with Bud. It's just that he's being brutally honest, and he is. And unfortunately, if you look at their schedule and where their roster is, well, yes, there's some things they've improved on the roster, like for example, getting Byron Brown. There's a lot of things that have gone worse. The receiving core, they bring in the other Singleton from South Florida. He's there. There's still some semblance of decent players out the receiver core, but again, I know this is going to sound hypocritical, yours, and it's not like I'm being a troll, but losing guys like Cam Coleman and all of the guys from the Freeze Four or whatever who left, that is a big freaking deal. Okay, I cannot emphasize how that especially Cam Coleman, that is a huge talent leaving the team. Now, again, I know a lot of the Auburn people will say, "Well, bro, the Cam Coleman was an asshole, bro. You don't know what you're talking about, bro." I understand that. I totally understand that Cam Coleman. Yeah. Well, was that the perfect? Was he an angel in the locker room? No, I don't think so. Probably not. Okay, so I don't blame you for saying that. That's probably true. There's a lot of evidence that would support that. Yeah, he's probably a thug. Well, at least that's probably kind of a harsh word to say, but at least has that sort of attitude, I guess. Probably shouldn't have used that type of word, but whatever. It's on the recording, but yeah, maybe not that type of a word necessarily, but just he's definitely a clown. There we go. Maybe a different way to put it. He's a clown. Yeah, sure, he's a clown, but he's a talented clown. He's still good at what he does. I mean, he was very efficient for them last year. Now, granted, yes, he didn't get the same attention as a Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams has gotten over the past couple of years since he's been in college, but he's still a damn well good talent. And it's just really disappointing to me that a lot of people do not realize with Auburn, with all these players leaving, yes, they may not be the best personalities. Yes, they may have this thuggish mentality towards them in terms of, wanting money and that's all they want. They don't care about, the Auburn program and whatnot. But still, at least when I'm looking at it, this is at least the way I see it, that is a lot of freaking talent leaving the team. And that's what Bud's trying to say is, look, that blue chip ratio he puts out every single year, I'm sure it'll be out here soon. He'll release it on the CBS Sports website. Auburn's blue chip ratio is going to be hanging on a freaking thread because of all the talent that just left, whether it's the draft or through the portal. And that's just being brutally honest. Again, I understand that, yes, he was not an angel in the locker room. Yes, he was a bit of a clown. Same thing of Deuce Knight. I'm sure they probably were. but that doesn't mean that's still talent leaving the team, and the blue chip ratio has gone worse. Okay, so again, I'm not denying they were not good people. Okay, I never met them before personally, but again, there is certainly evidence that would suggest that's the case. But again, that's still high quality level players that are leaving that team, and your blue chip ratio has going the opposite direction. So again, I know a lot of folks will disagree with me on that, but that's just the reality. And what else is reality? Their schedule is really tough. Again, it starts off kind of easy. You get Baylor, a neutral site, in Atlanta for the Affleck kickoff classic or whatever. You should probably beat them, I think. Though I would mention that it is DJ Lagway's Baylor, not Baylor from last year with Blake. Was it Blake Shapen, I believe, or something like that? I don't remember. Then you get your regional G5 team in Southern Miss. You should be 2-0. Florida, to me, tough. I know. A lot of folks will be saying, "Oh, you're full for it again, man." Whatever. I still think that's a really good team, and ironically, that's the coach of Florida that Auburn wanted to get in John Summerall. I'm not going to say why that was the case and what happened there. I think a lot of folks know what happened. Then you get Vanderbilt. You should beat them. Then you get Tennessee, like I mentioned earlier. That's going to be a very pitiful game, too. And then you have the rest of the schedule at Georgia. You host LSU. You have Ole Miss. So you have Arkansas, Mississippi State. So that helps. Along up your FCS team in November, which, based off of recent comments from Greg Sankey, that's going away, so that's good. At least I'll be moving up early in the year. Then you have Bama on the road for the Iron Bowls. Based on that, I mean, there's a lot of what? So Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, that's 3. Ole Miss, that's 5. Yeah, Bama, that's around half of your schedule that you're going to be dogs in probably. Again, I'm not saying this to be a troll of the Auburn troll. I'm not. I know a lot of folks who either graduated from Auburn who have interest in Auburn. But even they, and I'll be seeing one of them, or at least a few of them over the holiday when I'm away, when we're not doing live shows, then I'm sure I would imagine they would agree with me that that's the schedule here. Yeah, they're probably going to lose most of those games. Again, this is not me even hating Alex Galesh, who I am a fan of. I think Alex Galesh is a good coach. But again, in combination with this schedule and along with the talent they lost, again, I understand a lot of those guys were not the best character people. That's still things to consider here. And that's why Bud Elliott said what he said on that LSU summer school episode, that this Auburn team, based on this schedule, is probably going to struggle to make it to a bowl game. Not because of the offense, not because they upgraded our quarterback. Like, that's obviously good things, right? That's their offense should be better. But I really don't. I can't agree with Bud. I just don't really see the schedule or their record really improving that much. Again, it's not Auburn's fault that it's not Alex Gallish's fault that the schedule's like this. It's just they're in this conference. Again, take the checks, take the losses. I know Auburn's not really one of those teams that they've sort of reverted into that role where they're one of those teams where if you're LSU and Georgia and Ole Miss, you kind of go, "Oh, we got Auburn. Oh, yeah, yes, good." It should have to be that way, guys. It should not be that way. But it is right now, and maybe in a year or so they'll be like Tennessee with Josh Heupel in his first few years. They'll eventually get better, but not right now. And so we go again. I wish I had the graphic here, but because StreamYard doesn't really let you do that, because you have to pay for that. Unfortunately, we have to just tell you this. So, best case scenario, 8-4. That would be a miracle for Auburn this year. I think that would be fantastic. Worst case scenario, unfortunately, kind of more likely than the best case, 4-8. I know, laugh at me, but that's the wide ranging of possibilities here for Auburn. Most reasonable, in my opinion. I'll be nice here and say they go 7-5. But I can easily see 6-6, 5-7. Again, the combination of the schedule and how tough it actually is, and with the talent leaving the team, that was good talent. Yes, I know behind the scenes and off the field there were clowns, and I guess you can use the thuggish mentality. But again, I like Josh. I mean, I like Josh Heupel, and obviously that extends down to Alex Galesh because they run the same type of offense, and that offense is really easy to install. And again, the offense, it should be good. The defense too should be good to a certain extent, I think, because you kept DJ Durkin. Again, those are positive things. Those are things if you're Auburn fan you should be happy about. But again, the reality is your schedule's really tough. The talent on the team got worse. It got better in some areas. It got worse in a lot of other areas, particularly at receiver. Now, again, that sounds hypocritical because, yes, you don't really need talented receivers to run this offense, but it definitely helps. Okay, it doesn't hurt. So, yeah, best case scenario, 8-4. Worst case, 4-8. I know that sounds very dramatic, but that's Auburn this year. They're very, like they have been the last few years under Hugh Freeze too. It's a very combustible mixture here. And then you also have the most reasonable again. I'll meet Auburn fans halfway and say 7-5. It's not probably what you want to hear, but in the words of Skip Bayless, that's what you need to hear. So just calm Auburn fans' expectations down. It's not a guarantee you guys will be like going to the national title and competing for an SEC championship game. That's not no, that's not going to happen. Okay. So I wouldn't be saying that if I were you. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm just totally missing the point here, but I don't think I am. I think I've gotten a pretty good read on Auburn for the most part for the past couple of years, I think. And that's the show. So again, this is not a live show. This is a pre-recorded show. So we'll be doing this for the next few weeks or the next week or so. So when I'm releasing this, the following week, week of like July 8th and July 10th, I'll be gone for those days. So we will have yet again another show, and I'll be pre-recording that a few days from now. So I'll be early the week of July 4th. So I'll be on Tuesday, I believe. I think on Tuesday we're gonna have to do 2 shows. This one will have the other one, so we'll make it work or something like that. But anyway, so that's it. Hopefully, you guys have a good July 4th as we'll be releasing this on July 4th, so you can hopefully having a good July 4th, celebrating America's 250th birthday. Until the next time, you'll see me next week, pre-recording, and you'll see me guys after that back here in the saddle going live, and at that point, we'll be pretty close to like Spider-Man Brady Day coming out. We'll have the college football video game that been out. I'll give you guys my review on it by then, and then we'll be getting to San Diego Comic-Con, which we'll get our first look at Avengers Doomsday, and then we'll have SEC and Big Ten Media Day. So things towards the end of July here as we're moving right along. Going to get very busy, and then fall camp's going to start very, very soon. So things are moving very, very quickly here, and we like that. We love seeing the month of July because that means October will be here soon, and September and July and August and whatnot. So, yeah. So have a good day. Good July 4th. Celebrate. Enjoy your hot dogs and cheeseburgers and beers and hang out with your family and whatnot. And until next week with our next pre-recorded show, take care and have a great rest of your 4th of July.